Welcome to show number 567. As we see, Blake Middleton has popped up on my screen. Cheers from Lake Minnetonka, where the current wind chill is 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and the last two boats have just been removed from their slips. Ed Worley down in SoCal saying cheers. We gave you a little look there at the North Light, the Island Light, Block Island North Light. Block Island just off the coast of Rhode Island. And the America's Cup used to take place back in the day between Block Island and the shore. You can see just the shore on the horizon there. We've got any number of other folks on here. James Frederick Land standing by, drizzle and cool in Austin, Texas. Greg Phillips from Paradise Point, Queensland, down in Oz. Gordon Smith, as usual, good evening from Denmark. You fabulous people. Stingray says, devastating news from Saddle. I was fired from my job at Twitter via email. I'm not sure he ever worked for it. No, he didn't. He said he did. Graham Sweeney, good evening from Inverby. In Burberry. Yeah, he's not able to get home. We'll report on that some more.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to show number 567 for Friday, the 18th of November. Closing in on the end of the year, closing in on show number, 600. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. I was looking the other day at show number 100 from sometime in 2018, and we had the amount of gear we had was one little camera on a tripod, and I had a screen, an iMac back here on which we played the slides. Now we got the PIP. And I could take to it and go full screen, but man, oh man, it worked. It was fine. A little agricultural, but nonetheless, it worked. Lots of comments coming in already. Mary Jude Szymanski in Philadelphia. Good afternoon, everybody. John Emmett, I assume that's Training to Win. Good evening from a mojito bar in the air. Got a couple reports from John, a report and another nice video. It's snowy in Michigan. Yes, it's snowy across the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and Buffalo. New York's getting hammered with maybe 4 feet of snow. We've got a video report on that. Christopher Gillingham and Jane checking in from normally Leamington in the south coast of the UK. Carlos Aviz, greetings from all of Brasilia. All the way from Brasilia, my beloved mother, Janice Davis. Happy Thanksgiving Day and my oldest son's birthday. Yes, that is this coming Thursday. The turkey turns 69 on Thursday. Hello from snowy Cleveland, Julie Ahrens. It's cold here and I'm thinking about a place to go ice sailing. Well, that's nice. Okay, let's get this one off the dock here. And just before we do that, I want to say that Julie had a good doctor's appointment yesterday. I went with her. And she had the orthopod look at her foot, and the orthopod said, you got to stay off it for another 4 weeks, but it's looking good. Did the x-rays, and she's in great spirits. She wants to get the hell out of the convalescent home and get back here to the Commodore Suite upstairs. And we're going to do everything we can here in the next week to do that. So she's going to need some help here at home because she's got to stay off that foot, the doc said, for another 4 weeks. And maybe a little longer, but she's in good spirits, as I said, good reports, progress on all fronts. Our pre-start today, as it was on Tuesday, this esteemed club in Helsinki, the Koivusaari, I'm not sure if that's even close, Koivusaari Sailing Club in Finland. They run this Helsinki-Tallinna race. Beautiful club, beautiful facility there just west of Helsinki, on the Gulf of Finland, and we salute them as our pre-start club today and pre-start race committee. What's these comments? Blake Middleton, I'm volunteering to break Julia out and get her back to BSYC here to the Beach Street Yacht Club. So great news. Gordon Smith is agreeing. Yeah, Warren Schasser, thank you. Nice to see Warren, who's checking in from Brisbane in Australia. Yeah, good morning. It's his Saturday morning down there. Best wishes from Brisbane. Thank you to all of you. And do you know what day it is today? I gave you a little clue in the show notes at the top of the show, calling it Snip Snip Day. Look at that. I'm going to go back. Look at that cartoon. You see the plane pulling the the banner with the scissors on it and the two balloons with the little strings. It is World Snip Snip Day. There's another clue. Does anybody know? Anybody guess? Julia would have known. Scissors, Steve Gruber. No, it's not World Scissors Day. Look at this clue that I'm showing you now. World Snip Snip Day. The guy's covering his crotch with his hands in front of the doctor or the nurse. Vasectomy. Gruber's got it right. Bill Wingrove said too late. It is, in fact, World Vasectomy Day. It's been going on for 10 years. They call it an act of love. And I like this. I'll tell you who's really good at that game. What's that game called? I need Julia here. Where you put those, that's balls, that is. I'm shaking my finger at you, Julia Ahrens, and say, it is World Vasectomy Day, VD Day. In an annual event to raise global awareness of vasectomy as a male-oriented solution to prevent unintended pregnancies, the goal is for doctors all over the world to perform vasectomies connected to the event via Skype and social media platforms. Thank you, Julie Aaron. Scrabble. Yes, Scrabble. Clark Chapin, Scrabble. Scrabble. I'm not a bad Scrabble player, but I tell you, Maggie is world class. She is really good at that game. She can even beat my mother. She's pretty darn good at it. WVD was founded in 2012 by the American filmmaker, of course, Jonathan Stack. While he was working on a documentary about the decision of having a vasectomy, the underlying goal was to involve men in family planning decisions and educate them about vasectomies as a simple way of taking responsibility for birth control. Now, get this, you Aussies. In 2013, and they call him a prolific vasectomist. That's a new word for me. Dr. Douglas Stein was scheduled to perform vasectomies in front of an audience at the Royal Institute of Australia to launch the inaugural World Vasectomy Day 10 years ago, with the world's first live-streamed vasectomy. I wonder if Jody Shields was involved in that, or if any of our other Aussie foesy. Stein answered questions from, I don't want anybody playing around with my scrotum, answering live questions from an audience in Australia and an international online audience. I mean, it's bad enough that we're doing that here. I can barely push the buttons and change the slides and change the scenes of the 18 scenes, but to do that? Yeah, I'm sitting here with my legs crossed, I can tell you that for sure. World Vasectomy Day. Oh yeah, I've already liked and shared Julia Can Rest Easy. Is it easier than a foot replacement procedure? That's a good one, Stingray. Okay, that's what day it is today. That was the best, there's many other days, but that was the only world day that I could find, so we went with it. That gets us, of course, to the starting line, and we like to start with John Emmett. We've got some music for John's segment now. Kind of just like John, it's kind of cool. Usually he's smooth. He is smooth today. You'll see in the video. Our Coach's Corner with John Emmett, who's checking in from Hyères at the ILCA Europeans, the sixes and the sevens. We got 110 women sailing in the sixes there. I just realized today when I went and looked at the results, they're just east of where the Olympics are going to be in Marseille, about 65 kilometers. And John reports in from the beach.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. So it's the final day of the round robin today, and it's going to be, despite all appearances, very strong wind. 6 races to decide who makes it into Gold Fleet. So I think a championship like this, it's all about the recovery. So one of the things we can monitor ourselves, and that's very important with diet, we have the blood tests, and actually a lot of people, regardless of diet, may be a little bit low on vitamin B12. Good to take that in the morning. You can get all sprays, etc. Just because there's less of it in most diets, so that's something to think about with energy levels. In terms of recovery, I should say I was not being paid by Snickers, but it's important that you have that opportunity to grab some food, whatever it is, within that first half an hour post-exercise. Of course, in a perfect world, I would recommend taking a proper recovery drink, so something like 1 part carbohydrate to 1 part protein to 2.4 parts carbohydrate, and with the essential vitamins and minerals which you digest it, and actually you can buy bars and so on. I would recommend taking it in a liquid form because it's pretty easy to down, 500 millilitres, no problem, get a pint down your neck. We do lots of practice of that at university, so you can get it out the way. And also, ironically, in sailing, hydration can be a real issue. I say ironically because we spend all our time on the water, but it's hard to hydrate during races, and there's limited time in between. So that recovery period is really important. And of course, the other thing is sleep. And one of the main barriers to sleep is often the mental side of it. And anyone who's really relaxed at regattas, maybe you're not trying hard enough. So you do need to have that constant bedtime. Depends on what you eat and drink, but I would aim for maybe 4 hours before bed to finish my main meal, and actually 2 hours before bed to finish consuming liquids. So as an old man, I'm not getting up in the middle of the night to pee, which isn't particularly convenient, and a good night's sleep can be harder at regatta because of those stresses and strains that are going on. And that's why what you eat and when is important, and it's actually during that fast period that your body has a chance to repair. Certainly it doesn't want to be trying hard to digest food or whatever whilst you're meant to be sleeping. So yeah, those are my top tips for recovery. I'm sure there's a few I've missed out, but I need to go and mentally relax myself for what will be an interesting day. Hopefully catch you on the show.
Well, I'm obviously breaking all the rules because I don't even start eating till about 9 and then go to bed at 11, 8:30 maybe. And then my last drink, I have a big glass of water before I go to bed, but that's at 10:30 when I go to bed at más o menos 11. But I am going to have my vitamin, that where John's reminded me to take my vitamin D3, which Andrew McIrvin, Dr. John Campbell, and others have told us, and I always pop a vitamin D3 every day because I'm not out in the sun as much as I should be. And they say it's good for your immune system, good for fighting off COVID, and so on. So, maybe John's segment, we got to rename John's segment instead of Coach's Corner. Maybe it's got to be the Nutrition Nook, Nutrition Nookie. I don't know. You shake your finger at me, Julie Aarons, because I'm sure Julia is watching this in the convalescent home, is shaking her finger at me now. Now, John, who's as I said, is in the air, is doing these videos. If you go to his channel or the Ilka channel, I'm putting some of them up on my Facebook page, and they're really good. And this is one from today after the race, and an American won the race. That's not why I'm running it, but it's to really give you a feel for the shoreside ambiance and what's going on there at this terrific event in here. Have a look. And in fact, just to set it up, just before I went to air, John and I were texting back and forth. He says, how many races today? Because it was really windy. And he said, well, it was windy, but they just had one race. Crazy Shifty Off the Mountains was near dark when we got home.
I'm Christina Sakalaris. I'm from the United States, sailing for the U.S. sailing team. I had a really good day today. I think it was either a bullet or a second. It was kind of close on the finish line. So I'm really happy with the day. I was focusing a lot on getting off the starting line well. It was something that I've struggled with so far this week. So I was really happy to put all the pieces together and get off the starting line and hit some shifts on the first beat, sail fast downwind, and keep it really simple after that. Tomorrow is the first day of Gold Fleet racing, which is super exciting. It almost always feels like the regatta starts when Gold Fleet starts. Everyone is super competitive, everyone's fast, everyone's smart. So I'm just very excited to bring my A game for tomorrow and hopefully have some great Mistral conditions again and hike hard and have a good day. I am really just focusing on sailing my own race and feeling super confident in all the conditions we're seeing. And I know that if I kind of hit all of my process goals with getting off the starting line well and playing my side on the beats, I'll be able to have a really good event results-wise. So I'm trying to focus a little bit more on the process than the scores. And today it worked out pretty well, so I'm going to try and stick with doing that in the Gold Fleet racing.
Great, well thanks for your time and good luck for the last 3 days.
Thank you.
Beautiful, eh? And a nice video, John. You're doing his videos get better and better. We really appreciate them. As I say, he does one every day for the ILCA class. And you can find them on the ILCA Facebook page and their YouTube channel, on John's YouTube channel. And I'm starting to put some up myself because they're just so darn good. Blake, I did not know that Christina has Stanford sailing connections. In fact, I don't remember her name. I had to go look it up to get the spelling. Yeah, it is nice footage, Ed Worley. Totally agree. Beautiful spot here. If those of you, I'm sure many of you have been there, but it's a great sailing spot. Too bad they didn't run the Olympics there instead of Marseille, but that's another issue, political, I'm sure.
So, as you can tell by the setting sun, day 3 of the ILCA Europeans was a long day. Only one race completed in difficult winds, the winds coming straight off the mountain. So it was those people who got the shifts right who ended up at the front of the fleet. Now, with no further ado, we're moving into Gold Fleet. 3 more days of racing, lots more to come. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to subscribe and you'll get the daily notifications.
3 more days, so they're done Monday. John will be home Tuesday. You like his theme music? I like it, and I hope John likes it. And he said that he's going to report in. He's going to do a video for us for Tuesday's show from Monday's night's regatta party, which is sponsored by another Fozy. You know who's sponsoring it? I didn't put the slide in, John, but Luca Devoti, our Fozy, longtime friend, and he's been a regular. In fact, he's going to come back on. He's involved in a pretty cool new project. That is Luca Devoti, and we're going to he's going to reveal that project on this show in due course. So have fun Monday night, John and co. Great all these sailor stories and videos, much appreciated. Which gets us to the B block, and this day in history, the 18th of November. I've actually got 2 segments here because it was kind of a cool day. What happened on this day in history? 1497. Any of you know? Does any of you know? See, it's does not do, right? Christina was the ICSA single-handed national champion. Pretty impressive connections, Blake Middleton, who used to coach at Stanford, of course. Devotees parties now. Here I miss all. Krasimir is saying, yeah, yep. It's Columbus found Puerto Rico. No, that's a pretty good guess, though, Steve Gruber. What happened on this day? You ready for a clue? King Henry VIII got a vasectomy. John Cabot lands in North America. No, I'll give you a clue here. There's your first clue, anyway. Anybody else? Before I give you your second clue. There's your second clue. That, of course, is the esteemed Portuguese seafarer, navigator, Vasco da Gama, who they're not sure when he was born, at least Wikipedia's not, 1465-ish, circa 1465 to 1524. And Krasimir's got it. Krasimir Naumov, gentleman and scholar, saying, Vasco da Gama reaches Cape Horn. Well done, Krasimir. And it was indeed on this day that Vasco da Gama as we said, was a Portuguese explorer and the first European to reach India by sea. His initial voyage to India by way of the Cape of Good Hope, not Cape Horn, Cape of Good Hope, was the first link to Europe and Asia by an ocean route connecting the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. This is widely considered a milestone in world history as it marked the beginning of a sea-based phase of global multiculturalism. Multikulti, as we would say auf Deutsch. Flying Hulls on YouTube. That's Bill Parker, Cincinnati, down there in the Cincinnati area. Welcome, Bill. So more on that. It was the corn. It was not the corn. It was the Cape of Good Hope. And it was on this day back in 1497 that Vasco da Gama reaches the Cape of Good Hope, and was a big day in terms of world history, at least according to not only Wikipedia, but any number of other sites. This day, 18 November, 1497. As you all know, one of my favorite topics of late, and for that matter, is time and time zones, notwithstanding that we are, as you all know, we're back to, thank God, 1300 Pacific, whether it's daylight or standard, 1300 year-round. But you also know what happened on this day in history relative to time and time zones. And I'm going to give you a little bit of lead-in, especially for you Brits and the Kiwis and even the Italians, around August 23rd, 1852. So this is a year after the America's Cup, AC 0. Time signals were first transmitted by telegraph from the Royal Observatory in the UK. By 1855, 98% of Great Britain's public clocks were using Greenwich Mean Time from the observatory, but it was not made the island's legal time until 1880. Some British clocks from this period actually have 2-minute hands, one for the local time and one for GMT. Would that be confusing or what? Yeah, Joe Holtzman's agreeing with me on one. Well, the Italian mathematician Quirico Filipponti, I guess it's pronounced, introduced the idea of a worldwide system of time zones in his book Miranda, published in 1858. He proposed 24 hourly time zones, which he called longitudinal days. Okay, that makes sense. The first centered on the meridian of Rome. Everybody wanted, in fact, the Americans wanted to focus it on Washington, D.C., the meridian, prime meridian. He also proposed a universal time to be used in astronomy and telegraphy. However, his book attracted no attention until long after his death. In the meantime, in 1868, the then British colony of New Zealand officially adopted a standard time to be observed throughout the colony. It was based on longitude 72 degrees, 30 minutes east of Greenwich, that is 11 hours, 30 minutes ahead of GMT. This standard was known as New Zealand Mean Time, like Greenwich Mean Time, New Zealand Mean Time. Okay, got all that. Timekeeping, meanwhile, on North American railroads in the 19th century was complex. Each railroad used its own standard time, usually based on the local time of its headquarters or most important terminus. And the railroad's train schedules were published using its own time. Some junctions served by several railroads had a clock for each railroad. So you go into a train station, there might be multiple clocks, and you had to see what clock your train that was coming in on that particular railroad, what time it was. Each showing a different time. That's hard to believe, but it did. Now there's this guy, Charles F. Dowd, who is an educator at what's now Skidmore College here in New York, first proposed the concept of time zones across the U.S. in 1870, so about the same time that they were starting to get to it in the UK and New Zealand for that matter. On November 18th, on today, this day in history, in 1883, Allen was on hand. I've skipped ahead, but you don't need to hear the gory details. This guy, Allen, was on hand at the Western Union Telegraph System building in New York City to witness the plan's implementation, that is, these U.S. time zones. Room 148 contained the company's regulator clock. At 9 a.m., the clock was stopped for precisely 3 minutes and 58 seconds and change. The clock was then restarted, and Eastern Standard Time was born. November 18th, what was it? 1883. The following year, a conference, as we've talked about on the show, was held in New York City to determine the location of the prime meridian. The Americans wanted Washington. The French wanted Paris, of course, which refers to 0 degrees longitude, reports the website of California cartographer Geo Django. There's quite a name. Geo Django Maps. It was decided that Greenwich, England, would in fact act as the Earth's prime meridian and that the 24 time zones would be based off that location. The 4 continental North American time zones used today, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and of course out here in California and the West Coast Pacific, look substantially similar to those envisioned by Dowd in the 1870s. So it was, according to Fox News, on this day in 1883 that North American railroads create time zones, and the U.S. didn't adopt it till the early 1900s formally, but meanwhile everybody else was getting with it. I like it. Private industry, private culture, or not the government forcing them down, but entrepreneurs, private industry creates time zones, and the rest of the world took note, and it was soon the whole world took shape at that conference a year later. Now here's a map You know what this map represents? This is a Tom's Tangential going off on a tangent. That, of course, is my favorite topic. That is a map of the world in which the blue countries, areas, is where daylight savings time, summertime, as you non-Americans would call it, is observed. And it's relatively rare. New Zealand, Australia, only a corner of Australia, in fact. Paraguay, Chile, North America for the most part. Most of Western Europe, part of Scandinavia, but not all of it. The blue countries. The orange countries are where daylight savings time was, saving time, I'm told it is, not saving time, formerly observed, which is a lot of the world. And then the red countries, the red parts, are where it's never been observed. And you know how I feel about all of this. Wow, the cartoon goes, where did the summer go? It's already fall equinox. Whereas I like to call it daylight savings debate season. We're having that debate. We're extending it past the fall equinox, the autumnal equinox, your vernal equinox for those of you in the southern hemisphere. Spring forward, fall back. I can't keep up. Pick one and freaking leave it. I couldn't agree more. End daylight savings time, end summertime for good. Pick one and leave it, please. And each of you in the locales want to pick one, that's fine. There's a big story I've told you about Detroit wanting to be on New York time because the New York Central Railroad ties into this story, when really Michigan should be on Chicago time in terms of the meridian, in terms of the longitude. But, whatever. Just pick a time, and then the locales can do what they want. Tell me if I'm wrong. What are the comments? In northern Sweden, it's either day or night, Krasimir says. Not sure why they need this. David James, once again, Kaliningrad is confusing. Yeah, they go back. I mean, Arizona is confusing. They don't change, and the rest of the country does, except for half of Indiana. That's really confusing. Stingray says, is it true that noon church bells were started in Italy to remind the Italians to go back to work? I don't know. Okay, you know how I feel. See if anybody else has got a comment before we move on. Blake Middleton, daylight saving time must stay for summer months, and I'm fine with 12 months. It has to stay so the public can enjoy evening hugs before sunset. Key for sailing. Well, as I say, depending on where you're on the time zone, if you want to keep it in Michigan, so you got an extra hour of light, and that's double daylight time in Michigan. Blake, you're on Central Time in Minnesota, but to each their own. Let the states and the countries decide. Well, let's stop this to and fro, please. Okay, enough of my rant for today. We're talking about King Charles and the Route de Rhum. We're talking about the AC-37 logo. I'll let a few of you rant on that. There were a lot of comments when I posted that on my Facebook page. Just joining us, if you are, welcome to show number 567 for this Friday, the 18th of November. Speaking of the Route de Rhum, let's get to it. The race, the Ultimes have finished. Here's the update. Most of the Ultimes.
The coronation of King Charles. Charles Caudrelier has won the 12th edition of the Route de Rhum in the Ultime class in the dead of the Guadeloupe night.
9h, 2 minutes, 25 secondes UTC.
But it's not just a solo victory.
It's
not the victory of one sailor today, it's the victory of a whole team. It's really the story of the Gitana team. This race was won together. The skipper beat Francis Joyon's 2018 record by over 18 hours. With his name on the Route de Rhum trophy, Caudrelier enters ocean racing legend. A few hours later, François Gabard took second for the second time running.
Le goût, elle a cette deuxième place. C'est marrant parce que c'est vraiment différent.
How do I feel with second? It's funny because it's really different. I think it's taking me almost longer to realise it than it did 4 years ago, but it's amazing. Maybe it means more long-term this time because it's a new boat, whereas last time it was at the end of the life of my previous boat.
C'était peut-être presque la dernière du bateau précédent.
Thomas Kobil is expected later in Guadeloupe to complete the podium in the all-team category.
Okay, I mean, it's just an amazing record that he has set. He finished early. We were talking about this Tuesday night, said he was going to finish Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. And in fact, he did. 6 days, 19 hours, 47 minutes, and 25 seconds. As Krasimir saying, Gitana is just really ripping, impeccable. There's a great story today on Tip and Shaft, and that's the free newsletter. Comes out of France, mostly about French ocean racing, but ocean racing in general. It's a good review of the week's activities in the sport, and I commend it to you. It's free, Tip and Shaft, and this is what they had to say about this about Charles King Charles. He's a skipper reaching maturity was the subhead in the article. A good team, a good boat, and the third ingredient is a good pilot. I don't mind calling these guys pilots, which indeed was the case with Charles Caudrelier, according to our, meaning Tip and Shaft's experts. Quote, he practically made no mistakes. He controlled the race from the start, gave it his all, and if it was a leg in the Figaro, as if it were a leg in the Figaro. This is the sign of a huge talent and a really mature sailor, unquote, commented Pierre-Marie Bourguignot. A discreet sailor who is one of the finest list of achievements in French sailing, with in particular Solitaire du Figaro, 3 Transat Jacques Vabres, 2 Volva Ocean races, and a Route de Rhum. Just an amazing performance. And I'm also reading in various places that his, there was something like 30 maneuvers, jibes, tacks that he had to do, that the boats, most of them in the L teams at least, had to do from Sao Paulo down to Guadalupe. And how many miles is that? 3,500 plus miles? Don't remember the number now. Somebody help me out with the comments. But he apparently, his average maneuver was something like 5 minutes faster than the next best boat or the other boats. 5 minutes to get a jibe or a tack on those monster boats, single-handed. Amazing stuff. Bravo, Zulu. Congratulations to Charles. Now, this is the latest from about, an hour and a half ago. And you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have now finished. And Arthur Lavallant, is that how you say his name, is just about in 6th place. And then the rest of the gang will be finishing in due course. But it's a nice performance by all those boats. They had beautiful breeze, nice kind of broad reaching conditions going in once they got into the trades, and an amazing job by the Edmond de Rothschild and the Gitana, who sponsors that team as well. Congratulations, Bravo Zulu. And now let's take you into the IMOCAs. We're not going to do the other 4 classes, but the IMOCAs I know a lot of you follow. And there's some breaking news there. Outstanding pre-race favorite, Charlie Dallon and Apivia, who has led since the start, as we've been telling you. They've got 1,000 miles to go, by the way. He was passed this morning by Thomas Rouillant in Linked Out, who seems to have profited from a more settled, stronger trade winds breeze thanks to his westerly position yesterday. Dallin repositioned to join his longtime rival, and the pair were this afternoon, that is today, engaged in a match race just a few miles apart. That's pretty amazing. So this is now the new leader, Thomas Rouillant's LinkedIn. So after 9 days and 2,500 miles of hard racing, 1,000 left to go, the IMOCA class is wide open, and rather than being the usual drag race to the buoy north of Guadalupe, see how I avoided having to pronounce that, tête à l'anglais, I guess, the final 2 or 3 days look set to be a test of tactics in changing gears, predicting the small-scale changes on the waterhead, and trimming to make small gains here and there. I mean, the match race in the IMOCA 60s. So that's the current standings. You can see Thomas is just barely ahead. He's only 9 miles ahead. If we go look at over here on the left, the leaderboard, 9 miles ahead of Charlie Dallin on Apivia. And then Jeremy Bayou is up to 3rd. He's 45 miles back, but they're all pretty clustered here. They're on this the trade winds. the easterlies, and they're on this nice broad reach down into Guadeloupe. And of course, as you all know, they have to go around Guadeloupe, counterclockwise, leave it to port. And, well, 1,000 miles to go, and they're going how fast? 20 knots. So they got a lot of days left. If they're doing days that they can maintain 20 knots in 24 hours, so that what's that? Is 200, in 10 hours is 240, 20 hours is 480, so 500, 600 miles a day. Well, they'll be there in a couple days, I guess. Then there's that treacherous, light air situation around in the backside of the island. As you can see, when they get down there, they're in the lee of the hills and the island. So it gets very light and shifty. And of course, at night, it lays down too. So let's go to Medallia and Pip Hare, who we've been following. And she's had some repair issues. She actually got herself up to 9th place and then has dropped back after some issues on board. Have a look.
So the sun's come out, but we've got fairly light airs at the moment. And so having climbed all the way up to 11th in the rankings, I'm on my way back down again because I'm really struggling from not having a full mainsail. And so we've come up with a plan to, we can't fix the hull, but we think we can use the sail with the hole in it. The job is just to make sure the hole doesn't get any bigger. So I'm just going to do that repair now. So I've hoisted the sail to get the damaged bit at working height. You can see it's a pretty big tear there. The 2 points that we need to protect are here and here. You can see that these are the places that still might be under tension, so these are the places we need to protect. Biggest problem for us is going to be getting anything to stick to this because it's been covered in salt. So my first job is to freshwater wash the area that we're going to stick onto. And we'll do the other side. Just pass the kitchen roll through the hole. And then down here I've got some sticky 3DI sail repair, which I'm cutting into strips. So the idea is I'm going to put this strip over those pinch points, half on one side of the sail, half on the other, like that. Hopefully that will stop it from growing any further. So next I'm just going to do a little bit of tidying up here. Okay, so next thing to do is I'm going to put my first strip here. So acetone goes strip number 1 right on here. Just going to leave that hanging there while I acetone the other side. This side's going to be harder to do because there's no wind in the sail, so I've got to somehow hold the sail on the other side so I can press against it. Oh, it's sticky. Actually, what's quite good with this is if I hold it, rub it with this backing paper, I can get it a little bit hot. So I've done the capping repair, which you can just see above me there. And then there's a makeshift Cunningham, the green line, on the slider above the tear. And the final thing I've got to do is some sewing. Because effectively this kind of whole front part of the sail, I want to make it redundant. So I just need to sew something into the foot of the sail here so that I can pull the foot of the sail forwards so that there's no pressure at all on that back edge of the sail there. So time for a bit of stowing. Final piece of the equation, I've effectively put like a sort of intermediate outfall in there that goes forward to the clew. So this whole bit of sail here, oh yeah, you can see branding, Yuns will be happy, is redundant, and there's no load on this back bit here. It's a masterpiece.
Okay, well, it's a little hard to follow all of that, but you get the idea. She's strengthening the two areas of the sail that she's worried about it tearing further, and she's lashing some things together. And yeah, I think Stingray, it is riveting. She must have part of the time a GoPro, I guess, on her, on a helmet or on a strap, got a headband. And the other time she's positioning it so she can shoot. And the audio is pretty darn good. It's amazingly good. She's out there bouncing around the ocean. And Fritz Mueller agreeing, it's been wonderful to follow Pip. These Route de Rhum folks are amazing. Yeah, indeed they are. So here's where she is. She was up to, I think to 9th, she said in that video. And now Isabel Yashka is up in 9th, and Pip Hare's down here in 12th. You can see that she's dropped back. But she's still ahead of Yannick Bestaben and some of the other, big names we know from this event. So Bravo Zulu Tour and to all these other sailors. I know that Andrew McIrvin and some others are not in the RORC, don't endorse single-handed sailing because, you run into container ships even with all the alarms and the radar and so on. And single-handed sailing, you don't have somebody to keep a watch out 24/7. But it's mountain climbing. It's as long as they're not hurting other people, only going to hurt themselves. Well, I guess it's interesting. I find it interesting, and I know many of you do as well. So we'll keep covering it. Now, I want to switch to a Bravo Zulu because one of the sailors that we told you about on, I guess a week ago, was dismasted, and that, of course, is Louis Burton on Bureau Valet, which is, I guess, a company that sells bureau, meaning office equipment and furniture and so on. Well, he was dismasted 10 hours after the start of that race. And a couple days ago, he was just getting into, he did a jury rig, which we'll show you here. And he managed to get into A Coruña in Spain. And here's the jury. This is exclusive, world exclusive video. Thanks to Jeff Waller, who forwarded this link to me this morning. Thank you, Jeff. And also thanks to a YouTuber named Jose Montero, who shot this as he was approaching A Coruña, I think Wednesday morning, a couple of days ago. And he's met by members of his team out there on the rib. And he said, yeah, I've gotten some rest. I feel like we can approach. I'm ready to approach and come in. But I'm sure when they get closer, they put a tow on him or something. But my goodness, to have sailed all that way under that rig, Bravo Zulu to him. Amazing job. And thanks again to Jeff Waller, who runs boatson.tv. Sends videos each week out to yacht clubs around the world. Fantastic solution after losing the mast. Yeah, it's obviously a reaching strut or something that he stuck up there and stayed somehow and put on a small jib. Long, slow sail back to Spain. But he made it. Bravo Zulu. Okay, if you're just joining us, so we're about 45 minutes into show number 567 on this Friday, the 18th of November. Look at the swell and wave crashing on the shore. Not for the squeamish. Yeah, getting self-tacking jib, a joke by Gordon Smith. Yeah, not you wouldn't want to be going in there without. That's his outrigger. Thanks, Steve Gruber. Those Zamokas have outriggers on each side, as Steve knows, as you all know. So, not for the squeamish. I can't think of a better comment than that. Okay, let's get to the America's Cup and AC-37. Before we talk about the logo, I thought we'd talk about something serious, which is American Magic.
My name's Trevor Bird, and I'm on the power team from the American Magic.
Okay, yeah, we had more breeze today than we're used to seeing. Can you just walk us through the day from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to see all the gear uprange and start testing our systems at a bit more breeze than we've had the last few days.
I'm going to stop this and just do a better setup. A couple of you asked about how long does it take and how to get the boat launched and get the main up. This is a pretty good indication. And on this particular day, you'll hear him say that it took him 2 hours to get going. They were checking some stays that they've replaced some of the uppers, I think, on the rig. I can't remember. I didn't really quite gather. But first of all, they got to put the rig in. Then you'll see them putting the mast up, put the rig in rather than putting the mainsail up. You'll see that in a minute. Hang in.
Got
here.
a lot of light air days and dying breeze, so it's nice to have good breeze all day.
Okay, the beginning part of the day, we had about 7 minutes of sailing and then an hour and a half of no sailing. What was the team working on then?
Yeah, so we had a bit of an issue with the hydros at one point today, and that was a matter of getting the problem part out on shore, a little tickle up, having the guys take a look at it, and then running it back out to us.
Okay. And then setup this morning, it took over 2 hours to go from out of the tent to crane in. Why was it so much longer today?
So today it took us a bit longer to get the rig into the boat and get it all dialed. We were just making sure our dock tune's right with new uprighted shrouds and making sure those were dialed in.
Okay. What was the team working on yesterday when we had a non-sailing day?
I think yesterday we just wanted to make sure the boat was ready to go today. Obviously we sailed on Monday and didn't have the longest day with the breeze dying, but it's always a matter of upgrading and improving parts and trying to get the latest and best gear on the boat. So just taking those scheduled maintenance days to make sure we're ready to go.
Okay. How is the team managing crew substitutions across the board on the yacht?
We've got a lot of guys who don't have a ton of experience sailing these boats yet, so we're trying to get them as much time as they can in new positions, trimming and flight control, and then a lot of guys in the power team that we're trying to get them time on the boat as well, is also balancing their workload in powering all the systems.
For the power group, what's the average substitution time?
It really depends on the sailing day and how hard it is. There's been days where we've run the same guys all day, and that's been all right. Windy day like today, beyond a couple hours, you'd be pretty hard pressed to get a full day out of it.
Okay. How are you finding the recon program so far in terms of giving versus what you're getting? And is there content you'd like to see more or less of? And lastly, how are you using it to your advantage?
I'll be honest, I'm not sure I'm the guy to answer that really, really well. I'm not using it all that much. Sean Clarkson's the guy for that one, so.
Okay. I don't know if you saw this either, the big plastic tank that's mounted to the base of the mast. Can you tell us what that's for?
Yeah, we're just using a water tank as a way to keep the rig a little more in control. We put it in the boat. Simple as that.
Oh, okay. And the camera on the starboard bow that's pointing at the foil, what do you all use that for?
The camera there, like you said, pointed at the foil. It's just to have a look at the foil. Simple as that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
I mean, they really got to fix the audio. There's the new logo. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I mean, you can't hear the question, or at least I can't. I'm listening in my earbud, but even when I listened in fancy headphones before we aired this thing, I don't know. Bill Wingrove and others are commenting. Ed Worley saying nice footage from each team, but the questions in the interviews are a little crotonic. Yeah. Bill Wingrove, who's in Tampa, Florida, around the corner, has got to plan a road trip up to Pensacola. They post their planned training days on the American Magic Facebook page. David James, imagine if it took 2.5 hours to douse the main on your Beneteau 35. What would that do to participation? Yeah. Stingray's asserting that American Magic is showing more progress than any of the teams right now and at full scale. Well, we'll see. I mean, they got cyclers, as you just heard. And now this is another American Magic video. For that reason, I want to focus a little bit on the cyclers and have a look at this.
John Kroom. I'm a cycler on the yacht.
Okay, great. Looks like we got in close to 5 hours of good sailing today. Can you walk us through the day from your perspective?
Well, I was only on the first rotation, so we just kind of hung out on the boat for a little bit trying to find some wind, and I got to learn the difference between jelly and jam. So that was good. But yeah, no, it was a good time.
Okay, how does cycling on the yacht compare to what you're used to on the track?
It's just like it's kind of like a stroll through the park, really. It's just like pedaling a bike more than anything.
What were the cyclist rotations today, like the times?
Oh, I don't even know, to be honest.
What was your longest stint today?
Maybe 60 minutes was mine.
How long can the yacht continuously fly before running out of power from the power group?
I have no idea, to be honest. I'm a cyclist, so I'm trying to figure it out as I go.
Are there specific goals that you and your group are trying to accomplish before the holiday?
No, not that I know of. We're just trying to make sure all the systems work and we can keep sailing.
Okay. Were all the maneuvers today, were the power requirements met for all the maneuvers today? In other words, did we run out of power at any point?
To my knowledge, yeah, we were fine.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, that audio was at least better. Now, this guy's a non-sailor from what I can understand. He's a cycler. And, of course, maybe he's just using, maybe he is a bit of a sailor, and he's using that as a dodge not to have to answer the sailing-related questions. But I think not. He's a cycler, and he's there doing the power. Gordon Smith saying, this is a dreadful interview. It is pointless to keep doing this. Yeah, I know. I'm reluctant to put these on, but I think we got to examine these from kind of the 30,000 foot level and see what we think of these videos that are, well, not all that interesting. But another question. We've updated this slide. I've changed it back to not the German spelling, because some of you complained about spelling corrector Crutonic with a K. Code flag C's. Corrector Crutonic, dedicated, of course, to Jody Shields, and it was in Barcelona a couple days ago that they revealed at the Maritime Museum the official logo of the 37th America's Cup. Was revealed in Barcelona today on the 16th, that's Wednesday, at the Maritime Museum of Barcelona, designed by Practica, a Barcelona and New York-based design and identity studio, who were selected from a short list of 3 creative studios. So we're going to ask you, of course, at the end, if you think this logo is correct or Crutonic. There is Mr. Dalton revealing it. He said, quote, "We are really proud of the new logo and identity of the 37th America's Cup here in Barcelona. It is bold and refreshing and will no doubt be clearly recognizable and associated with the event by the people here in Barcelona, in Catalonia, Spain, and around the world. So we want to commend Practica for their design, but also thank, there was another consortium who organized a very thorough design process." Stingray says it's correct. It looks like a bra, the B. I thought it was the number 13. Well, but wait, here's a video that they released. I don't quite understand, but then I'm not a very creative person. Just kind of a boring old fart. Simple country boy from Michigan. So there it is, a rather abrupt ending. I mean, that was the video that they released. Clark Chapin, he's got his Portage Yacht Club Awards dinner this evening. Ciao. Thank you, Clark. So there's the logo. There it is in reverse. And that's what they released publicly. And there was more from the statement that they released on Wednesday. Anna Barbiela, partner of Practica, said, quote, "We are obviously hugely honored to have had our design chosen as the official logo of the 37th America's Cup here in Barcelona. It is an iconic international sporting trophy taking place in an iconic international city, and this was the basis of our thinking behind the creative of the logotype and the visual identity." Okay. Quote, "The America's Cup symbol has been redrawn and synthesized," okay, so it can be reproduced in all sizes and media, and is aligned with a bold B. So it is a B. It is Barcelona. It's not a 13 or a Bra Stingray. A bold B typeface that directly represents Barcelona. So I ask all of you, is it correct or is it Crutonic? And we'll see what you all say. Fritz Mueller saying Crutonic. If you just arrived from another planet, it would make no sense. Cryptic identifiers. Wonder how much they got paid for that, Bill Wingrove said. Well, maybe it was voluntary. Julie Aaron says, I'm in advertising. And what do you think, Julie? James Frederick Bland, Barcelona could have underscored the cup and it would have been most effective. Not as bad as the Paris Olympics mascot. Yeah, Luca Craig. I was going to put that in here, but we'll cover that on another day. I had that on my Facebook page. Julie Aarons, I'm an advertising person for 27 plus years and I hate it. It shows no creativity. Does anybody like it? Stingray does. I like the new ETNZ logo, a Kiwi stylized logo that suggests wings over foils. It does? Wings over foils. Okay. Gordon Smith says Crutonic. Who else? Is this Graham Sweeney? Is this the symbol for a chuck wagon serving brisket? Sweeney is clever. He and Ted Ryman's. Yeah, Greg Phillips and Stingray. James Frederick Bland up there above. Whatever they paid too much. I could have done a better job. Stingray saying first AC event logo I can recall that includes the city name. Not quite true, Stingray. Stencil font, confusing branding. JFB says, yeah. I don't get it. I don't get it. Okay, look, I ran the cup a few times, as you all know, and I'm going to show you my logo. We had an 88 cup when the logo was similar, and actually I like the 88 one, but we simplified it further for 92, and even Richard Gladwell says the 92 logo was the best logo ever, and I present it to you now. And the way we did this, I said, guys, I had an ad agency, we had a creative team. I said, I want something that says the America's Cup, that says sailing, that says match racing, that says USA, hence the red, white, and blue, and says the year, America, and obviously the event, America's Cup 92. So this is what they came up with. And to be fair, the first couple times they came up with it, it was not correct. We had to work on it. I did some cut and paste on the Xerox machine one time. But that was the 92 logo, and even as I said, Richard Gladwell thinks this was the strongest logo because it does say sailing. It does to me at least, and it says match racing. I liked it a lot. Now their Stingray is another version of the same logo with the city below it. So you can say America's Cup 92, San Diego, California, USA, and that got used a lot. But the basic logo also worked well for sponsors because they could replace San Diego with AT&T in this case, America's Cup AT&T. Sailing, match racing, two boats, silver America's Cup. What's not to like about that logo? Tell me if I'm wrong. Let's see what other people are saying. John Mangino, hi John. Crutonic rubbed my head for 10 minutes with that B. Yeah, ETNZ logo, not this one. Would look good on a World War II Jeep, Graham Sweeney is saying. John Sangmeister, who I'm sure doesn't like it, is just being sarcastic, saying, haters gonna hate. It needs to show some love to the RNZ. Yeah, Baton Rouge, Baton Kennon down in Charleston. Couldn't agree more. So sorry to Grant, but I would have been cheaper and better. That's Julie Aarons, who's a big fan of Grant's and ETNZ. She's saying it's very disappointing. Fritz Mueller, nothing in logo to indicate it is a sailing event, which it isn't. Aha, Fritz, I think you're right. I'd wear the 92 logo. Thank you for that, J. Frederick Bland. There, I'll go back to the simplest version. I've got some pins around here somewhere. AC34 had a super nice logo. It had just slight hints of the Golden Gate Bridge. Yes, that was, I mean, a lot of these other logos have been good. It isn't really match racing when the apparent wind downwind is 40 degrees forward, David James is saying. Joe Holtzman, you are totally right. And Ed Worley's agreeing it's Crutonic, and most of you are. And I guess it is not correct. Most of you thinking it is pretty Crutonic. Crutonic, not even close. Who's Flying Hulls? There's a new YouTube name. Welcome to you, sir or madame. And that is it for this logo session today. Any other comments? Going once, going twice? Otherwise, we'll get into the end of the C block here before we get into the D block. But I do have America's Cup 37, a B grade event, Bill Wingrove is saying. AC 37. A B grade. Oh, I see what he's saying. He's saying that logo is a B grade logo. I don't get it. I don't. I mean, obviously they are kowtowing in a big way to Barcelona, who must be giving them, 100 million euros, more than. It's a lot of money. So it's obviously done by a committee. Flying Hulls is saying, yeah, I think we'd all agree. Okay, I don't want to beat that horse. Back in Rhode Island, that lighthouse, it's now, you can just barely see it. It's dusk looking north. And those of you, it's 1700 in Newport, Rhode Island on the East Coast. So we look at the Block Island. That's a camera from inside the lighthouse. Kind of cool. Okay, this is, I like the music. Fozzy Focus, just a quickie. For one of you who's on here, Grant Dalton creative John Mangino is saying. Here is the weather forecast. I should have kept that music going through all these slides. Julie Aaron saying, no excuses, it's really bad. Okay, enough. I don't, other than Stingray, who I think was being sarcastic, and I know John Sangmeister was, but back to our Fozzy Focus. You see this forecast? Look at this. And it's been this way for a couple, 3 days. A wind of 31, gusting 55 today, and tonight, even more. Well, a little less. And then through tomorrow, Saturday, 29, gusting 45, 29. I guess it's not all that unusual. This is for Yell in the Shetland Islands in the UK. And our Fozzy Graham Sweeney, who sends me stuff all week, bless his heart. And this is his. I love that he looks like who was the guy on who just he played the character on Harry Potter. The guy that played that that character. I can not think of the character's name nor of the guy. That's why I need Julia here. Where's Julia? Julia's not here. But that is our Fozzy Graham Sweeney from his Facebook page. Fabulous photo. Hagrid, thank you, Graham Sweeney. Hagrid Gordon Smith, yeah, it's a Viking look. Who Ed Worley said that, and who was it though? Who played that character on Harry Potter, and he just passed away. Somebody's got to know that. Robbie Coltrane, thank you, Luca Craig down in Auckland. So there's our own Robbie Coltrane / Hagrid Viking look, Graham Sweeney, who can't get home to Yell. He says currently we are stuck for 5 days just outside Aberdeen at Inverbervie, is that how you pronounce that? Until the weather eases and the ferry resumes service. We'll try to watch your show today, on the iPhone, but the signal is intermittent. Life, however, he says, is an adventure. I said, oh, man, I'm really sorry to hear. Oh, dear. He says, no, life is an adventure. This is just another one. Have rented a small fisherman's cottage. Looks quaint. My neighbor on Yell reports no structural damage to the Lessiter his house. So all's well. Looking forward to tonight's show from Inverbervie, Scotland. Okay, so that was from Graham Sweeney. Our Fozzy, that's a little Fozzy focus for today. It gets us to the D block, and we're going to wrap this up in just a little over 2 hours today with Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. And while that's music is playing, David James saying, just FYI, Stanford beat Cal 3-2 in the Big Sale, which is a very cool event at St. Francis. Yeah, that was on Wednesday. I didn't make it over there this year for the first time in a long time. WTF, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. This from Graham Sweeney. Thanks. He says procrastinate is a new verb, procrastinating. The art of going sailing when you should be doing something else. We're going to use that, procrastinating. I think we got to use that. By the way, while we're on Fosies and Fosie Focus, I should just say thank you to Graham Sweeney for sending that along. This, remember, I opened this on the show on Tuesday and put it back here in the back, and I might go back to putting it there, but this from Pedro Foiling Sailor, it was actually intended to go here in the corner of the desk to clean up the corner of the desk, and this is the Sailing Illustrated Crutonic Corner, he calls this, as a bit of a cleanup instead of whatever. I used to have something else there. I can't remember. I had a round wicker thing. So thanks to Peter Stevens, we've cleaned up the corner of the desk, the Crutonic Corner. And we got 2 sets of croutons now, too, thanks to him. Okay, the next one here, this courtesy of John Sangmeister. Sailors, I didn't put this in here because I didn't want to have a copyright strike, but this is from the Babylon Bee today. It's an interview, fake interview, with a Twitter employee who's now looking for work. She goes in to do an interview with somebody, and one of the lines is, I put this on my Facebook page, I don't know, a couple hours ago. What do you do at Twitter? The boss asks her, and she says, well, we drink like a sailor. We do a lot of drinking. We drink like a sailor. I didn't know sailors had a reputation for drinking. That's why I said, sailors, do we have a reputation for drinking? Where's Jody Shields when you need him to defend our reputations? It's a fun video. I commend it to you. Go have a look. And thanks, John Sangmeister, for sending it. And I say it's on my Facebook page. Funny video. Now this, I thought you Aussies would love. You know, one of the best things about living in Australia, I guess the wife says, the husband says, the guy says, what? Well, not living in America or Britain, when they're talking about the MAGA madness here and the never-ending Tory UK in crisis. So thank you. Several of you sent that to us, and I thought I'd stick that in. Finally, this one I found on Twitter, and I thought Julia would just get Julia's finger tuned up because we're going to get her back here sooner or later, right, Julia? You better get back here. We need her back here badly. She's got her headset on the back of her chair, awaiting her return. We all do. But this one, dear Santa, this year, please send clothes for all those poor ladies in Daddy's computer. It's funny, isn't it? Okay. Australia is a model of political stability. David James is asking the question. That gets us to the finish line. And for those of you in the snowy Great Lakes, my beloved mother and Blake and who else is checking in? I guess it's snowy in Cleveland. Julie Aarons, it's for sure going to be snowy in Buffalo, New York, at the eastern end of Lake Ontario. Have a look at this.
Check out the snow in Buffalo, New York. At least 11 counties of the state are under a state emergency as the region braces for as much as 4 feet of snow. Let's get a live look now from Grand Rapids, Michigan. This city under a blanket of snow. We may be hundreds of miles away, but yeah, that cold air is gripping the entire country.
4 feet of snow in Buffalo, New York. Lake effect snow, cold air coming down, a lot of moisture blowing in off the lake, and 4 feet of snow. What's that, a meter and a half, meter and a third? Darn global warming. Ed Worley saying cold in Minnesota. There's Jay Rendell. Hello, Jay. Yeah, it's cold up there. And, well, I don't think getting much snow up Minnesota, but around the lakes they are. Yikes for Buffalo, but those people at least have electricity. Yes, indeed they do. That gets us to the end of this one. Please like, follow, and share. Julie would say that if she were here. Comments welcome too, even in replay. This show is brought to you, as always, by our supporters on Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And while we do the rest of the thank yous, I just want to say that Tuesday, a very special show. We're going to have Chris Odorowski, who is the Commodore of the Cruising Club of America, celebrating their 100th year. Chris will be on the show live via Skype, I think from Seattle. I'm not sure where. It's going to be a great show. We're going to talk about what they've achieved and some of the things they hope to achieve in future. That's next Tuesday, the 22nd. In the meantime, we hope you all have a great weekend wherever in the world you are. And if you can, if it's possible, go sailing. Sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.